Today we are looking at our very first aftermarket RTX 3080, the ASUS RTX 3080 TUF Gaming. Aftermarket cards have typically been an improved version of a GPU maker's in-house design, but with NVIDIA stepping up their game with their Founders Edition cards for this launch, many are curious how much better these board partner cards actually are. For an in-depth look at how NVIDIA's RTX 3080 FE compares to the last-gen RTX 2080 Ti, and how it pairs with a $200 Ryzen 5 3600, check out our full review over here. Now, as of now, I don't have a confirmed MSRP for the 3080 TUF, but one of the reasons ASUS has opted to release the TUF card on launch day is due to its entry-level pricing compared to their other cards like the ROG Strix 3080, which is slated for release later this month. Aesthetically, the TUF card sports a matte black finish all around with an aluminum and plastic housing that feels sturdy. But I'd be lying if I said the RTX 3080 FE doesn't look and feel significantly more premium in its quality and design. Let's just say it'll be tough for board partners to outshine NVIDIA with its beautifully beefy heatsink assembly and attention to detail. The TUF card carries a 2.7 slot design measuring 11.81 inches or 300 millimeters long, making it notably larger than the 2-slot Founders Edition at 11.2 inches or 285 millimeters long. As such, the size alone makes the TUF card less forgiving in small form factor builds. The only RGB you'll find is just below the dual 8-pin power connectors, which means it's bound to be partially obscured by PCIe cables in most chassis. On the bright side, standard power cables will probably look better than NVIDIA's new 12-pin to dual 8-pin adapter, which has the visual appeal of a skin tag. The card's triple axial dual ball bearing fan design is unique in that the middle fan spins in reverse direction of the other two to reduce turbulence. As we've seen in the past, the fans also stop completely when the GPU falls below 55 degrees Celsius. For improved cooling on the power delivery, ASUS has implemented a dedicated VRM heatsink, along with their max contact heat spreader to ensure a super flat surface for making optimal contact with the GPU die to aid in heat transfer. The metallic backplate is partially ventilated at the end and flanks the custom PCB with a 2-step BIOS switch, allowing users to target performance or quiet operation. At the rear, you'll find a custom I/O, giving us 2 HDMI 2.1 ports as opposed to 1 on the FE, and 3 DisplayPort 1.4a ports. On the testbed, I tested 3 different GPUs, all running stock: the TUF card, NVIDIA's RTX 3080 Founders Edition, and for comparison to last gen, the Aorus RTX 2080 Ti Extreme from Gigabyte. The cards were run on an open-air test bench with a stock AMD Ryzen 9 3950X, cooled by an NZXT Kraken X63 AIO on an Aorus X570 Master using 16 gigs of G.Skill DDR4 3400 memory. I first tested full system power draw, where we saw both RTX 3080 cards pulling the same 537 watts from the wall, or about 4% more power consumption than the aftermarket RTX 2080 Ti. As noted in our RTX 3080 FE review, the 2 largest contributors to power draw in a typical system are the GPU and CPU, so the power supply you'll need will largely depend on that pairing, but the 750 watt unit that ASUS and NVIDIA recommend for these cards should cover the vast majority of configurations. Now, if there's one area where the TUF Gaming destroys the Founders Edition, it's thermals. Under load, the TUF card ran 16 degrees cooler than the FE, giving it significantly more thermal headroom for overclocking and airflow-limited environments. While I wasn't able to validate if the cooler on my Aorus RTX 2080 Ti was defective in some way, it sure seems like it, with the GPU hitting a maximum of 84 degrees Celsius, which is alarming, especially for a premium aftermarket card. Interested buyers will be happy to know that the RTX 3080 TUF Gaming runs quietly, and owners should have no issue with it being a distraction in their build, even with well-ventilated chassis that are prone to more sound leakage. The noise levels of the 3080 TUF are already so low when using the performance BIOS that I didn't bother switching to quiet mode for our sound test, and much less so for our performance benchmarks. That said, the RTX 3080 FE is also very quiet, and even listening back to the sound test with headphones, I had a hard time favoring one card's sound profile over the other. Now, after closely monitoring GPU core clock frequency, the RTX 2080 Ti hit the highest peak value of the 3, but atrocious thermals brought its average clock speed to last place. Meanwhile, the RTX 3080 TUF ran 55 MHz faster on average than the 3080 Founders Edition. This can be attributed to the card's higher GPU boost clock of 1815 MHz compared to just 1710 MHz on the Founders Edition, on top of its ability to run significantly cooler, allowing for higher sustained GPU boost clocks. And now for the benchmarks. Yes, the time has come. As with our RTX 3080 FE review, I ran all game titles at 1920 by 1080, 2560 by 1440, and 3840 by 2160 to gauge performance at 3 widely adopted resolutions. NVIDIA's pre-release press driver version 456.16 was used for both RTX 3080s, and the latest WCL driver version 452.06 was used for the RTX 2080 Ti. Not to keep you guys waiting any further, here are the benchmarks. So after running the tests, I combined the average frame rates across all 6 titles to give us an overall look at performance. At 1080p, the RTX 3080 TUF outperformed the RTX 2080 Ti by 10.3%, while trailing slightly behind the 3080 FE by about 1.5%, which falls within margin of error, meaning the performance of these 3080s is effectively the same at this resolution with no meaningful difference in user experience. As we become more GPU dependent at 1440p, the RTX 3080s pull further ahead of the 2080 Ti by roughly 15%. Here we reinforce the findings of the last slide, in that the performance of our RTX 3080s is virtually identical. The trend continues at 2160p, with the 3080s continuing to make the RTX 2080 Ti look slower and slower. A near 22% lead over the flagship Turing GPU at 4K is downright impressive, and should give high-resolution gamers something to celebrate. With the performance, power consumption, and acoustics of both RTX 3080s being more or less a draw, consumers are going to have to look at other areas to make an informed buying decision between the two. While the 3080 TUF is well built, the 3080 Founders Edition wins hands down when it comes to quality and design, although you'll definitely need to pick up a third-party 12-pin cable to keep it looking pristine. The FE card is also the smaller of the two, which is an important consideration for small form factor enthusiasts looking to keep the stock cooler on their cards. By far, the TUF card's domineering feature is its cooling potential. The low temperatures indicate that it's sure to hit power and voltage limits well before it reaches thermal capacity when overclocking, and users with limited airflow are likely to be better positioned using the TUF card over the much warmer 3080 FE. Buyers choosing the 3080 FE should do so if they prefer the quality and cosmetics, prefer a more modestly sized card, and don't mind the toasty temps, or are planning to outfit their rig with exceptional airflow. Outside of those considerations, the RTX 3080 TUF Gaming gets a solid recommendation for improving significantly upon NVIDIA's cooling solution while offering all the technology benefits of the RTX 3000 series. If you guys like this video and would love to see us make more of them, you can support us by heading to our store, bitwit.tech, and picking up one of the many high-quality items we offer, like the infamous blue shirt of death, the Screw with Confidence shirt, or one of our new glassware sets that can be configured to your liking. You can also configure the like button to turn blue by clicking it, so we can be in the good graces of the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now, guys, but be sure to subscribe for more tech stuff and RTX 3000 series content on the way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all in the next video.